I'm sure they'll be better than anything I could put together, yes. Yeah. Well, happy summer. Welcome, everyone. Budget committee members, old and new, selectmen, new, and members of the public. Welcome to, I guess, technically our first meeting of the new budget year. We have what I think is going to be a really nice, lengthy discussion around proposed budget improvement processes and recommendations that have been put together with input from lots of different people. So that's going to be the main part of the agenda today. First thing is, though, I would like to officially welcome our new members. Kim, welcome. Cynthia, welcome. And Richard, yes. I thought we were missing one. So, oh, well, Lou got elected again. So congratulations, Lou. Yes. That's right, the Owen. And I know that, I think Lindsay cannot be here today. But I did want to welcome you. I know there's still some questions around training for new members. We'll get you that information. No, Ashley's said it's coming in like July, August. So there's lots of information that's out there in the public. Yeah, there's courses, there's online things that we can do, and or if we wanted to, I know that other folks have volunteered their time to answer questions, so we can talk more about that. Any other opening remarks from members of the committee before we move to the selectmen's report?
New Ashley.
We have a new Ashley, yes, we do. We're welcoming new and old folks. We'd like to welcome our new town administrator, Ashley. Welcome. Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you. And we did find our note taker, so good, we're good. At least for today.
Lucky, thank you.
We'll have to get that AI tool that takes notes for you. And, yes, yeah. Does it know names when you do it, though? Okay. Even better.
But then you can also put links to YouTube as well, and it'll transcribe.
Oh, okay. Where's Will? We can transcribe the, it's garbage. It's garbage. Technology will get there. All right, if there are no other opening remarks from members, we can move on to the selectmen's report. Mr. Anderson. Nothing?
I was in the same position my first time.
Or any updates from the selectmen that we should be aware of? It could be off the cuff.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, anything that you folks aren't already aware of. You got your highlights? I'll take that as my report.
I hope that's a good audible. Sounds like it. It's a good one. Okay. Nothing to speak to? Okay, great. Any questions for the selectmen as we approach this discussion?
Is the budget process going to be the same as last year or do you anticipate any changes in the way that the budget process for the selectmen is going to be?
I'm looking for my third base coach.
You know, something that we can anticipate.
I would anticipate that it will be mostly the same, except we have a new town administrator, so she'll be getting used to the process. But as for the department heads, I would say we are anticipating it to be the same.
Okay.
And maybe just for those new members, can you remind us of the dates that you typically have the department heads put their budgets together, present? It doesn't have to be exact, but.
I'm going to defer to Lynn.
If I remember correctly, so they did their budget jamboree on the 23rd or 24th. It was that Friday in October. And our budgets were due that first week of October. So that gave Kim and I time to tweak it, get it updated, get everything printed, all the binders together. So I believe that was the timeline.
Okay.
And I liked the jamboree that we did last year, so I'm hoping that we're going to do the same thing this year.
And by jamboree, it's a one day. Get every department head together to present their budgets, community.
And, right, and as everybody knows, that's the first time we see all of the budgets from the department heads, and it's part of a work in progress, so it's, yeah. That's the hope.
Are
And
there
then
plans?
I am launching in the next few weeks or so with the department heads. I'll be having one-on-ones with them and launching a capacity plan. So we can really look at what the capacity is of our department heads to ensure that when we come into budget season and we've got these meetings, there's capacity on their end to be able to accommodate those meetings as well.
Great. I know you said there would be no difference in the process. Do we expect anything from CIP or any sort of planning, whether it be from the selectmen or the CIP committee on, here's a strategic view of the town and what the next X amount of years looks like, or not yet?
I'd say it will be part of the conversations. I'd say it's on the front of our minds all the time. So forward-thinking conversations will be held. How's that?
Okay. Good enough. All right. All right, any additional questions or thoughts, comments before we move on to the main discussion? Karen?
Yes, Chris, we had emailed before the meeting, I just wanted to interject before we get rolling, because I would imagine our discussion may take some time. If there's time for public comment to be received, would this be the right time, or would you prefer to wait to the end of the meeting?
I think the public can comment, as I mentioned in my email back to you. I encourage the public to comment at any point in time. So we'd ask, please raise your hand. We can call you up to the podium. We'd ask you to state your name and ask questions. So we typically don't just have a designated time for that. We can certainly have that. If any members of the public would like to say anything before we get started our discussion, we're happy to have that, but would also encourage you to raise your hand during discussion, and, you know, depending on where we are in the discussion, happy to have you at the podium. So maybe I'll throw it out there, Karen, are there any members of the public who'd like to speak before we get started?
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, seeing no one walk to the podium, I'll take that as a no. So next step would be, has everybody had a chance to read the proposal Budget Committee process improvement recommendations? And if you haven't, it's okay. There's a lot in there. Everybody had a chance to read it? Okay. So really what...
I would say peruse.
Peruse is fine. Peruse is fine. So what the thought would be is maybe we would go through this item by item. This is for a discussion, right? This is a draft. This is something that Charlie started to put together. Charlie and I chatted. There's been input from other members of the committee. There's been input from members of the public. There's been input from members of the selectmen. So a lot of input went into this. So this is just to have a discussion. This is not, I don't intend to leave this meeting to vote to say this is the actual process. I would like the department heads and the town administrator and the selectmen to have a look at this, have some time to think about it, and come back to us with any questions, concerns, et cetera, in a short period of time. I don't think we want to belabor that as we start to get into budget season, but we definitely want to give you an opportunity to chime in and to see where there's synergies, where there may be some questions, or we really don't want to go down that road, or at least the thought of that, and so we can have that discussion together. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So Charlie, I could pass it over to you. I know you're one of the key authors of this. Would you like to walk through?
Yeah, I'd be happy to
We can go section by
facilitate, walk
section?
through. Yeah. As a starting point, when Chris and I met, one of the things we talked about at length is what's the intent of making recommendations of this nature. And in the document that you have in front of you, I think it's worthy to review the intent, the objectives, and the intent behind them, because I think it sets the climate for consideration and discussion. And I'm going to take the liberty of reading the three objectives. And the first is to improve the budgeting process, spreading it over a longer time frame, take a long-term, more strategic approach. And I will not refer comment to why we came up with these, but suffice it to say that the first document that I presented to the committee reflected my reasoning and thoughts. Also, to reduce the time demand on department heads and streamline data requests. Better educate the budget committee members and gain a deeper understanding of the challenges to the operating budget, and allow for more thorough review, analysis, and discussion. The second objective is to align the Budget Committee's process with its purpose, which is to provide independent budget oversight, prepare the annual operating budget, and assist voters in the prudent appropriation of public funds. And lastly, and probably to me equally if not the most important, is to foster a mindset and approach that values asking questions, challenging for priorities and appropriation opportunities, and seeking alternatives with public input. So that's the backdrop of it, and the document sets out a series of recommendations followed by very specific ideas and recommendations with an intent to really put something out that we could react to as a whole committee. And, and from, I would think, this meeting, Chris and I spoke briefly beforehand, then determine what actions we might take to formalize what the committee as a collective body feels is appropriate. So I'll take the liberty of just starting at the beginning, if that's all right with everyone, and ask for reaction at the end and input of each recommendation. The first is meet in advance of the budget process, which is what we are doing today, and the preparation and work to get to a place of having something to consider has been done in the form of this document, so that we can discuss and align around the process we'll use with department heads, including the scope for inquiry, review, and analysis, the building of a set of questions for department heads, for the finance officer and town administrator about budget assumptions, data to support budget projections, budget priorities and opportunities for adjustments, and all of this hopefully to reduce redundant requests, equally inform all members with the information, focus our review process, and use department head time efficiently. So that's the recommendation. This is what this meeting is a start of, and my recommendation of that is that we would leave this meeting with some assignments of how to refine this, and also what Chris referred to is get more complete input from department heads to gauge their reactions. Some have seen it, not all, and also from the select board. So that's the first recommendation. I don't think we need to belabor that, and it speaks for itself. The second recommendation, item B, is to meet in July prior to the start of the budget process undertaken by department heads in August, enabling us to provide our committee's thoughts, recommendations, and requests. So if we begin our process and there is a set of recommended dates, 4 dates in which we would meet to have discussion about what our inquiries are and data requests would be for department heads, as well as hear and understand better our current budget to actual status. We've just completed the fiscal year. Lynn, the close is done, and not complete, but that's in process. So we would have current data to have and gauge a better understanding of some of the challenges, the issues, and the opportunities to how it might inform us thinking about inquiry to department heads and review and data that might help the process. So there is a series following that these meetings would occur July, August, and September, and discuss fiscal year actual to budget at a high level, keep the committee apprised of status, any issues of concern, and their potential budget impact certainly in the coming fiscal year, but also in potentially the impact longer range. Discuss reports by committee members that have been assigned to certain departments or areas, and the recommendation that follows further in this document is to ask volunteers to go really be the project subject matter expert by working with a particular department or departments to really do an in-depth, thorough review with them to understand their budget, understand their assumptions, understand the issues and challenges and their thinking, and engage in a dialogue that brings the level of understanding and appreciation up. Specifically, there's a set of questions that is really a straw man draft that is on page 3 of this document that was top of mind that I put together at Chris's request to do so. As just a starting point, it may be reduced, it might be expanded upon. I've thought about it since and have some other questions that I would pose that might be added to a list of questions with the intention that it would structure the conversation with department heads versus no structure to a conversation. Secondly, it would inform what I'm suggesting is a written report by the person assigned to a particular department, that they come back to the committee and say, here's the review of XYZ department, here are the answers to the questions that we discussed, here are the challenges, here are the issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that report is then provided to the whole committee, understanding that there are individuals on this committee who are currently very actively employed and don't have the time necessarily to go to every department and go through a thorough process, and it's just not realistic to ask that they do that. But I have volunteered, just put my name on 3 committees, and I would suggest there's others in this committee that might do the same. And it's sort of a divide and conquer to raise the level of awareness and knowledge so that when we have a discussion around a particular budget and a particular budget item, its context is complete versus not having that information, making assumptions or presumptions or representing a personal bias, which I think is inappropriate for us to do as committee members, and really help the collective knowledge level so our discussion is more robust. The citizens of the town that take the time to attend these meetings really hear the information, they understand the information, and they can also weigh in on it. So that's the recommendation B, and suggested 4 meetings, actually 5. The first meeting is today, but the other 4 are to, 1, have a discussion that I think can be accomplished with Lynn, and Ashley, certainly if you'd want to attend, to have a review of the fiscal year-end budget to actual, talk about what happened, what's going to happen, what are the challenges, what are the issues, what are the kinds of refinements of budget requests we might be thinking about. And that is 1 meeting. The other 3 meetings that I recommend are meetings where we do a more complete discussion as a committee. Certainly if any department head wants to come and join that discussion, they're more than welcome, as is any member of the community. But it's really to do a download of the department review that a member of this committee would have done with a department head to disclose the information, disclose the discussion, and have an exchange about clarifying questions that would naturally come up from committee members, all intentionally to complement our knowledge to then begin the budget process in a meaningful way. So I would stop there and ask for reaction. Makes sense? Tell us why, tell me why. You hate the idea, it's the worst thing you ever came up with in the world, or conceptually agree and proceed. The last thing I would say is, I've heard from committee members who say, I've given enough time, I don't have any more time, and I respect that. It does not necessarily mean that everybody has to be here, because we can take minutes and we can do a summary of our meetings, and we can share that with committee members who can review the information, go through it in their own time, in their own way. So, reactions, conversation, hate the idea?
But, go ahead, Lou.
Okay, I'll start by praising what you guys have done. I will start by saying that, as you know, over the this is my 4th year as a elected member of the Budget Committee, and I have been a bit dismayed, and I've made that known, that the lack of a 5 to 10 year outlook in our budget process in the town is actually a bit counterproductive, because we start off the year and we just basically reinvent the wheel. And a couple of other members that are longer members of this committee, kind of started the ball rolling, and frankly, I agree with them. And what you're doing is, especially, when you're looking at 5 and 10 year budget forecasts, we're actually making really good progress, because one way or another, you're forcing the town processes, the town political life, to adopt that measure of forward-looking, ways of, in the operations of the town. We need to. We absolutely need to. Now, the next comment is, all of us, we're all elected officials, and we all need to give our time to the committees, and I certainly agree and support the concept of standing committees of the Budget Committee or subcommittees to look at it, in more in depth at a particular department. And not only that, look at, hopefully, as the year goes by, look at the expenditures and how they incorporate themselves into the planning budget. So I praise what you're doing.
Sorry, that even cut off the conversational aspect that you're actually calling for, which is, sorry, let me use this mic. So, thank you. And I'm going to be the first to admit, sometimes you don't know what you need until it's put in front of you. And then, yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys. I mean, yeah. I do feel like the microphones themselves do not lead to dialogue or discussion as necessary. You're just waiting your turn. And also, there are solutions for this. A Yeti or omnidirectional microphone in this space will just pick up the audience. It will pick me up talking and not an issue, and maybe be some AV help, but even if we don't, these are problematic for communication, I feel, within this size of a group. We're just talking at whoever and getting our thoughts recorded, basically. We're not discussing a whole lot. So that, and my only other comment is to the calendar or meeting schedule is, you said there's 5. I count 15, which is appropriate, especially for these first 4, like let's review the process, no problem. It's the secondary review and or requests of, other people's time. And I also don't think we need to be, assessing or, like critiquing who cares more or has done more or put in their time, because, I don't know what any of you guys do mostly on your own, but I also assume our department heads have a life, and I am truly, I will vigilante for that. So I just don't want oh, you don't understand or you don't necessarily agree with what we decided or the group voted on, so let's have another meeting. it's a burden on the space, it's a burden on our administrators, burden on the department, and this looks great. I love it. And yeah, those meetings sometimes do have to happen. But I don't think just at, someone's request, they, and/or like, whatever, have to be addressed and, make others feel as if they don't care or don't have time or have an agenda. And it's not about feelings, quite frankly. I just threw that out there. What it matters is, what's the plan? There is a plan, and dadgum, these questions are good. Holy cow. I mean, thank you. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Thanks.
Microphones stink.
I think the intention is that, and again, this, when you look at it at first, it can be overwhelming with the number of questions. I can imagine being Jay going, oh, that's a lot of questions. I would imagine the majority of the questions he's already answering when he puts his budget together. Some of these may be new, some may be added. But I acknowledge that it is a lot for the department heads. But I also hope that that short-term work up front, maybe a little bit harder work up front, decreases the work on the back end so that when we have these department area reports and reviews, that the same questions don't come up again and again when we have the budget discussions. So we're not talking about, and I'm just going to pick one because it does it all the time, the cruisers, right, for the police. Hopefully we've gotten the discussion, we've talked about it as a department head, and we're not asking the same question of Chief Cobb 3 times throughout the meeting 1 through 11 when we go through the budgets. I'm just saying that's one of the intentions, is to streamline that process a little bit. So a lot of those questions would be answered up front in the discussions with the department heads and in those reviews. And not to say it doesn't create debate, it just means that we're
Yes.
not constantly coming back and re-answering.
Well, and I think that's part of the role of the chair,
Yeah.
to facilitate the conversation in a manner that doesn't subordinate input,
Right.
but also isn't redundant to the point of what?
Yeah.
So purposeful, appropriate conversation. I think that the other side of this is that what is stated in here is to have a 5-10-year view. And so that with that view, understanding the competing demands for money in the backdrop of the competing priorities that extend beyond just the town budget, that go to the state, that go to the school, that go to the federal level. The context is such that when we discuss an individual item, like a cruiser, it might be in the context of a bigger decision, a bigger set of issues that would influence that single topic. And I think that it's a different process, and Lindsay, I'm glad you said what you did, because I agree wholeheartedly. It's not debate, it's not discussion. It's my chance to put forward my thought and my idea to gauge a reaction. And to me, that's not a constructive process whatsoever. And to the extent that there's conflict, I hope there is, because there's differing points of view. And we should encourage it with civility, of course, but also with a prudent utilization of time. So I think where I left off was recommendation A and B, and the reaction I got was, okay, no vehement disagreement, so we could adopt those, maybe adjust the dates based on the convenience of the committee, and then move to the second set of recommendations, which are the budget review. These require, Ashley, your input, because we're asking for department head time, and we're also spreading, they are sequentially listed with purpose. So I'm going to move to that list if I can.
So I have a couple of things too.
Okay.
So I mean, I think that I would be opposed to us voting at this point in time on these. I don't think there's a rush. So we can discuss the more meetings over whether more meetings are more efficient. They may be, that I think is a perfectly fine conversation. I'm interested in the list of questions because at one time I look at them and think that they are interesting. They would provide us a certain amount of information. But slipped into goals, you said, Charlie, that trying to eliminate or minimize personal bias as we bring these meetings with members of department heads to refine our budgets. And I don't think these questions eliminate bias. I think they actually lean into bias. Some of them border on operational, now granted, we may want to know some operational things in order to talk about the budget. I understand the paradox of that. But when we start talking about, key drivers for service demand, so a lot of these are non-budgetary questions. These are very operational questions. And so what is the appropriate, I need more information and I need some reflection on what the budget committee is supposed to do. Are we here to manage the employees or are we here to actually set up a budget? I think those are two completely different things. And then finally, I would like to say, as it relates to the 5 to 10 year plan, absolutely. I think we need to get our heads and hands around our capital requirements, our capital needs. This is the part of the budget that is most lacking. I think that we have a severe hole over there, but in that area. So I want to actually really push E or wherever that's coming up. It's later on. I'm not sure. I need more reflection and thought on these questions.
I think that's fair too. I can see a blurring of the line between sort of the legislative overview and the day-to-day operations piece that you mentioned. So, and again, that's why I think it's important. One, the budget committee hasn't had a lot of time to look at these. Two, it would be nice to get the selectmen's purview as well as the department head's purview to say, these are good questions, these are other questions I may want to add to this list, or I'm not comfortable talking about this, and have a discussion around that, right? A discussion debate. So I think that's part of the reason to say we're not going to vote on anything today. We want to provide you these questions to take a look at, to react to, and come back at another meeting to finalize a list of questions after everybody's had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, John, let me just react because it's top of mind, please. I am not implying in any shape or form that we are becoming an operational committee. Questions that are here are not, they don't have to be these questions, but the intention is to provide a standard format for department heads to be prepared to have discussion about and provide information on that will provide this committee a sufficient appreciation for what drives service levels. How does that influence staffing? What's driving overtime at a significant rate in many departments in the town? What are the remedies to that possibly? How are you thinking about revenue? Do you think about revenue? What about thinking about it? And have enough substantive discussion so that then a report is collected and shared with this committee. And not getting in operationally. However, there's a collective intelligence and brilliance that exists in this room, to include the audience. And I think we can harness that in a collaborative way by providing as much information that will help inform discussion, analysis, and creative thinking. And there's nothing wrong with doing that.
No, and so I'm not arguing over that aspect. What I would state is, when we, so here's one that I find sticky. we're going to set a budget. We could set the budget below what they're asking. We could set the budget at what they're asking. In fact, we could set the budget above what they're asking, in theory. We have questions on here that are pertinent. They are interesting questions, such as how much non-productive time does the department have annually? Meaning vacation, sick, holiday, and personal time off. Now, I get that is an actual budget question. I understand how that's a budget question. But the implication quickly becomes that we could
Absolutely not.
punish that
Absolutely
department
not.
for
Absolutely
the amount
not.
of time
And
that
so
those people are taking.
therefore-
No, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
The question is to understand, that particular question is to understand the level of non-productive time that's a given based upon the benefits that the town provides. And knowing that, what portion of your non-productive time do you have to replace?
And I get
And
that's
that's
the
a
budget side
budget
of it.
question.
It needs
I
to
don't
be
think it's,
rephrased.
well, rephrase it, but they're not intended to take a position. It's intended to garner information, to improve the knowledge of this group, to be able to do appropriate independent analysis and discussion and debate. That's all it is. And a question should be phrased, I believe, to all department heads. A
How
question
much
set.
sick time someone took because their
No,
wife
not
is
what they
sick
took,
is not,
it's
no,
not.
that's actually what's in there.
It's
the
what-
second one, sick.
It says, non-productive time, John, is vacation, sick, holiday,
Correct.
personal time.
But
That's
sick time is in there.
That's budgeted, not that's taken. And the secondary question is, of your non-productive time, how much of that do you have to replace? So if a department head has non-productive time, do we replace the department head?
So we don't
Do-
replace, I would not
do-
report this to my
staffing-
board. My board would
staffing-
hold me responsible for
Staffing
this.
budgets reflect that. I want to know what the assumption set is for each department.
Charlie,
That's it.
I
It
agree,
has nothing to do with policy, and it has nothing to do with other than data that is going to help you understand
but your response
the
was
labor
actually my
budget.
problem. You said that if we have too much, we will get rid of the department head.
That's not
And
what
that
I,
is my-
no, that's not what I said, John. The question was,
I think that is
as a
what you said.
John, as a department, when a department head takes a 2-week vacation, do you replace the department head? Yes or no?
Oh,
Yeah,
during his, okay,
During their
okay, I
vacation
got you
time.
now, I got you now.
fine. But it's data and information. I'm all,
Just a slippery slope, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I get that these are
I
budget
want in on this
questions.
one.
As a person who has 250 staff members and a multi-million-dollar budget, I understand. I would
too.
not tell this to my board, however, even though my board would be holding me responsible for it, and they may fire me if we aren't meeting our production needs.
no, I want to know the budget requirement, because it's a part of the labor budget.
You can move me on.
Yeah, no, it's not. No, I think, I agree both ways. I think there's good intention, and again, I'll go back to, I think it's up to all of us to look through these questions. So it's not just to say, now department heads, now select board, look at these and you tell us what's right or wrong. It's up to this group to come back and make suggestions on wording changes, et cetera, adding questions that we think are important that aren't on here, right? So this was a straw man, get started, have a discussion. These do not have to be the 40 questions. It's 40 because 41 is additional questions to be asked. But so I think to Charlie's point, it was like, this is with good intention. I can see the other side to say, you know, hey, everything seems to be, not everything, but some things seems to be going one way. And when we talked about it, that really wasn't the intention. It was to see, no, it was to, yeah.
Can we let Lindsay talk?
Yes, I will. But it's just to provide structure.
Yeah.
So in providing structure, John, to the department heads, whatever we agree as a committee is that structure, which would consist of a set of questions to gain a deeper appreciation and understanding of the things that drive cost, that it's common to each department head. And thus, it's not John Tilley coming up with his set of questions, Lou with his, Charlie with his, and bombarding a department head with that on my time frame versus respecting their time and putting forward what I think are also budget assumptions that they are already making, but we don't know what they are. And we are an independent body. We need to function that way. And it's okay to inquire, and it's okay to request, as long as it's done in a reasonable way, and I think consistently across the departments. And I would add one other thing, and Lindsay, I'll yield. I think it's, and this is not intended to be an offensive statement in any way, offending or offensive. I think it's a department head's job to do these things in the development and considerations of their budget requests. And it's not an unreasonable thing for us as an independent body to ask the questions and get an answer. And if we get the answer, great. If we don't, then maybe that's an opportunity to get more data that helps inform decisions for all the reasons we've talked about, longer-term decision-making.
Yeah. As someone whose intention is very often misconstrued, I understand what you're saying, and so I'm going to ask a question respectfully. Chief Lyon, is this a productive time or non-productive part of your schedule and day, and/or anything? What do we do? Like, how are these meetings and such, or will, sorry to single anybody out, is this productive or non-productive time? And just while we're on that, before you start, I want to ask another one. Is your life outside of work then non-productive, or is that just called life? Like, what are we, and also, it seems a rather imperialistic debate here, Charlie. It's not appropriate. It's an HR level and whoever handles that, but no, and I understand like the use of, and or if somebody should be, I'm huge on that. You can't just let somebody go on vacation for 2 weeks and then not have anybody, manning the helm. But no, it's just, again, right. And I'll let Jay, because I did tag him in, and I just knew he had some, I don't know. Sorry, Jay, go ahead.
I knew I shouldn't have come. Fortunately, I have only 15 minutes before my next meeting. So it's interesting, and I did read through these questions. I always love questions that you can just answer with a yes, like number one. Yes, would that suffice? But obviously, there's more in depth as far as mission statements and so forth and so on. I think that as we look at things, I do think it's important for us to maybe do a better job as department heads to explain our needs. It is difficult when you're dealing with things that are very, very complicated that, I don't know what Lynn does. I don't know what Will does. I can certainly assume, but my assumption isn't going to be correct. And so how do we as department heads educate a group like yours, a committee of yours, and have a productive conversation and have you make well-educated decisions when it comes to the monetary aspect of things. And what's difficult is, when I look through here, the strengths of the department, the weaknesses, I can have a strength of high expectations, but if my expectations aren't realistic, then wouldn't that be considered a weakness? I see what you're looking at and the series of questions. The downtime aspect of things is difficult. I mean, you almost need an app now to clock in and clock out when we're is lunch unproductive, but then we're responding to calls? What does that look like for the different departments? At the end of the day, us department heads work for the residents of New London. And your expectations, we need to meet your expectations. And I think what's important is to do in a manner that is professional and respective of all parties involved. And certainly this will take some additional time. Certainly I've worked with some others that, I put together some reports that I can just sort of plug and play. I'm old, so I'm not going to be using ChatGPT to answer your questions or whatever that thing's called. But I get it. And as a department head, it is going to take additional time, and rightly so. I mean, I think we have an obligation as department heads to justify what our needs are. It's just a matter of making sure that through the process, it is a productive, to our chair's point, that it's a productive process, and certainly there can be follow-up questions, but it's difficult when there's some items that get focused on and then.
We're,
Hold on, just let me
go ahead.
You do present a 5-year plan every year to the capital improvement committee. I mean,
At
well,
least.
you share, it's
At least.
at
With
5 to 7?
with larger capital items.
10, it's 10-year, okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, all right. Well, we should
So-
have a
but-
capital improvement plan in this budget sometime.
But it's,
Perfect.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I was just making sure, I know I've seen, those projections. I just wasn't sure where they went. And again, Charlie, I view this as a sample question and a document, that you put some time in, and more than anybody. That's what I'm saying, like.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
that all the questions, I mean, they're not, they're in black and white, but I'm not saying that's what we need to follow. Let's not get caught up in the verbiage of each individual question. I think the overall drive is both valid and it makes sense. Having said that, I remember this, not in the last budget season, the fire chief knocked it out of the ballpark if you remember, when he went and he wanted to, after just about all the budget process was done, he wanted to have an additional PFT. And if you look at the reclama that he did and the justification that he did for that position, that pretty much answers questions 1 through 40 of your, and I'm not saying that everybody needs to do that to that level of detail, but that can, his statement was very succinct, very thorough. We don't need to get caught up on the tildes and the dotting of the i's. What you have is actually fairly good. We just need to make it better while respecting the operational autonomy of each individual department head. I'm sorry, but I can't see. And while still at the same time doing the work that we are ascribed to by the taxpayers as budget committee people. We can make it better.
My reaction is that we have one relatively new individuals that rotate into this committee, and they deserve to be educated to the same degree, even though that education may be redundant. So, Jay, as an example, has been very thorough, complete in justification for the positions that he's taken on any particular budget item. But Kim hasn't heard them, and Cynthia hasn't heard them. And I think the degree of information is important whole committee to have so that when we are at a point of deliberation, there's a level and consistent knowledge base to have a discussion and analysis and make recommendations. That's where I'm
So,
coming from.
really quickly, I don't disagree that there's a lot of information that those of us who are new to the committee need to have before we can opine on, budgetary decisions. But to your point, though, I did actually go meet with Chief Lyons at the fire department, and he went through all of the information, the presentation that he had provided to the budget committee previously. So I do think part of the onus is on us as new budget committee members to do our research, to learn about things. And, that is, I think that's part of the responsibility that we have, so.
And I think the added,
Comment on that since I'm the other new person?
So go ahead, new person.
I'm sorry. Chris and I have been exchanging emails on this topic, and the only thing I would say is I really want to be extremely respectful of your time and other department heads, so to the extent there could be a level of education that doesn't involve each of us meeting with every department, because at the end of the day, they don't have time for that, and even if we do. So I get the education part. There's got to be a method that works, and we're talking about it.
In the past, this is just what we've done in the past. We've had the department heads, thank you, Jay. We've had the department heads have dates available, 2 dates typically, where they would meet with budget committee members. So sometimes that would be 1 member that would show up, sometimes it could be 6 members. And they would go through their department and answer a lot of questions, maybe not all on this paper, but any question you had, they would answer. They'd give you an overview of the department, the budget, where they spend their money, why, et cetera. That was left open to the person to determine if they wanted to go to that meeting, if they could go to that meeting, depending upon the time. Throughout the week, we try to do it when people weren't working. It was like October? Oh, it was usually in like August, September. I think what this does, and I would say, and Charlie can disagree, I would say what we talked about was we'd like to have one person be the owner of that department, but it does not preclude other members to attend that same meeting. So if Charlie is saying, I want to be the finance and administration lead, his responsibility as the lead is to get all these, whatever questions we come up with, get that report done with the department head, present that, answer questions with the department head. But if I wanted to go to that meeting, I certainly could go to that meeting, or if everyone wanted to go to that meeting. But essentially, it's trying to make one person an owner of each of those heads so that ultimately they're more responsible for having the knowledge and background and being able to answer questions during those discussions. Because I think, again, that work up front, if we can get that work and these questions can be, it's probably not going to be pertinent for every single department, that every single question is the exact same, but call it a 90% rule. I think it's going to take a little time up front. This next month, 2 months could be really busy getting these answered, scheduling those meetings, having those meetings, building that report. But the hope is we're saving time when Jay comes and presents his budget, and everything's not net new, right? Everything's not like, well, tell me more about that. Or
We're not asking dumb questions.
not even dumb questions, and it's going to happen. There's going to be debate about things that questions will be asked, but it's going to reduce, especially for the newer folks, because I think, Kim, for you and Cynthia, I've just seen in my 12 years, it's always hard for a first-year member to feel like they can answer or ask a lot of questions, because they don't have a lot of information. And hopefully through those presentations, you'll be able to gain that information up front so that you'll feel more enabled to ask questions during those debates. And it creates consistency across the departments. Some department heads are very good at pulling all that stuff together into reports. Maybe some department heads aren't as good, right? But this allows some consistency across so that everybody has an equal opportunity.
Chris,
Karen, go ahead. Oh, sorry, Ned, you were next.
what I was going to add is just not the not just like the operational foundation, like how the department works, but I think even more importantly is like what's changing in the department, what are the regulatory requirements? I think that's like and those assumptions are gonna change over time. Like, I think those are the things that we need coming into the budget process to understand the context, like how's the landscape changing? And that is gonna be from year to year regardless. And I think if we have like that overall, we're trying to build the context so we can make informed decisions about the budget. I don't think you should get into this detailed operational efficiency or requirements of the department. I'm sorry, I can't say anything either.
That's you? Is that your job? Okay. I was sincerely asking, I'm sorry.
Karen, you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I have a comment, and one, I want to thank Charlie for this really thorough and in-depth report or proposal. And having come through a year of being first year on the Budget Committee, I'm starting my second year. What I really like about this is a framework. And I think being new on the committee and having a framework to work within would be extremely helpful. It also sets a framework for the department heads as well in terms of the engagement of questions. And this is the beginning. I mean, this is a massive, in a good way, a positive change. So of course, what may look to be very daunting, the first year is sort of the ramping up. And I think we're in for a very challenging year ahead. Comments that a select board member has made at a recent selectmen's meeting, not to put you on the spot, Richard, but really got my attention in terms of the pressures on the budget that are unrelenting or are relentless or felt that way, or perceived that way. So I think the onus is on us to really get a really strong foundation underneath us as we approach the budget. What was a challenge for me last year, and something I took very seriously, and I'm sure we all do, because we are elected, independent members of the Budget Committee. Our responsibility to the taxpayers is the budget. And everything we vote on, that's our vote. And we need to be as informed and as prepared as possible to make that vote in a good conscience that we've done the underlying work and have the understanding. So I just see this proposal as setting the foundation for not just this year, but years going forward as well. And, you know, I know tonight is not the night to vote on it, but to really look at the questions and take it, to Charlie's point, is not getting into the operations, on the operational side per se, but having knowledge about that. So then when it comes time to vote on that budget line, we are as informed as we need to be. Back to Richard's point, and serving on the Board of Selectmen, we have a challenging year ahead, so now's as good a time as we could have to get prepared for it, and for subsequent years.
Thank you. Any other discussions on Will? Chair recognizes Will Kidder.
I was just hoping that we could not refer to it as non-productive time. If we could find another term for that, potentially. Yeah, or something like that. It's just, you know, for somebody that works 12 hours a day a lot of the time. I don't have a lot of that. Secondly, Charlie, can you help me a little bit with where you think it's saving department heads' time? And I'm not saying that it's bad or good. I just want to understand where you think the time savings are there.
Well, twofold. If there's a format that we follow as a department head and as a budget committee that's standard relative to a budget question, set of questions, that would allow the department head to prepare and not have redundant conversations with interested parties, because we've designated one subject matter expert, if you will, with a responsibility to the committee to align the information and report it back to the committee as discussed with the department head. And the second part of the streamlining is to allow sufficient time when the actual budget is presented by a department head for discussion versus question, response, okay, I'm out of here. And that is intended both to use the time better, but raise the level of the conversation from what it has been in the past.
Yeah, no, it's been pretty quick. Like, I don't think mine could get much shorter than
No,
generally
I
when
think
blow
that some
through
of them
things,
are
so.
and some of them aren't.
Right, well, and
And
that's
that's-
another thing is that departments are inherently very different from each other. You know, like if you compare me to Emily, that's the ends
Absolutely.
of the spectrum.
I also think this is Ashley, your decision. It is my opinion that department heads don't need to come to every meeting of the budget committee when their department isn't being reviewed.
Right.
And that if there's a question that is raised, then typically we'd look to town administrator to try to answer, or Lynn to answer in the absence of the department head, or if there was necessity for follow-up, we'd have follow-up versus, and I think that's a time,
Yeah, I think what you'll find is the department heads will come to every meeting,
well, that's,
except for tonight because there was scheduling issues.
well, I don't know why.
Why are they coming to every meeting? I guess inherently, in the past, there's been distrust, I would say, and the department heads have gotten burned, not by anybody sitting here necessarily, or even recently, but there is a long history of that happening, so I think that still plays in the lore a lot. And I think, you know, we would want to be here, particularly if our department is being discussed at all, because even the person that comes, so with the person that comes and talks to us, do we get to see that report before it goes
Yes.
back?
Oh, yeah,
You would be, you'd be
Absolutely.
the one help building that.
yeah, because you'd want to make sure it's accurate.
Right, exactly.
Because I might hear something one way and
Right, because the
It's not.
problem is, in the past has been with those meetings is, you know, somebody will say something about what happened in a meeting, and that wasn't what happened.
whatever.
No, I inherently believe those should be done together and presented together. In fact, I would think,
Absolutely.
I would,
Whatever, yeah.
I would think that when we have those area reports, that if I was the administrative lead, right, we would have met with you and Ashley and everybody else, and you would come to that meeting, but you wouldn't necessarily need to go to the other meetings, unless you wanted to.
By the way, the administrative lead is the one you don't want to be. There's a lot there. But anyway, that gets me where I need
Yeah.
to go. Thank you.
And again, I think back to a couple people's comments, we're looking to try this. This is not perfect. There will be refinements. Even if we get 80% of the way there or 50% of the way there, I think whoever's on the committee next year, we can talk about what that looks like. Did it work? Did it not work? Where did it work? What do we want to do better? Where do we want to improve? It might take a few years to get to that sweet spot, but I think this is a way to, there have been a lot of questions and thoughts around how do we be more strategic, you know, and I think making those discussions a little bit more productive so that department heads don't have to spend 12 evenings here waiting in case someone talks about their budget. And everybody gets has a consistent set of questions to ask and answer.
Can I ask in that regard, would we be able to state that this is new to me, so,
Yeah.
that the discussion on a budget would be limited to that designated day, and that on another day, there wouldn't suddenly be a discussion on a budget that wasn't meant to be discussed that day? Or do you find that budget conversations become very intertwined?
I would like to say that if we said today is police only and that we're not going to talk about others, I can't say that another question around, but what about fire might come up, like buildings or dispatch or something may come up.
Well, maybe grouping the subject matters that are more likely to be.
Correct.
And then
Right.
giving department heads confidence that
I'm sorry that ever happened, and I hope that doesn't happen again, but that they would be blindsided for,
I would agree.
without
yeah.
probably
I think
intending
that
to happen.
that would definitely be the intention.
Okay, great.
I don't certainly say to department heads, you should come to every budget committee meeting. I think, to Will's point, that's just been something that most have done. Not all, but most.
I also think it's important to say that the reason that we do is because we're an amazingly tight group of people that are also here to support each other and that sort of stuff, and like to be here to do that. So it's not just out of fear that $150 in my supply budget line is going to go away. It's to be here to support the other folks too.
You know, while we would like to avoid it, it's sometimes.
Can't hear you, Lou.
Oops. Yeah. You know, well, we would like to avoid it. Sometimes it just does happen, and like you say, it's a very tight, very cohesive group of people. So even if we would like to make sure that day we discuss one department that is the other ones are not discussed, it's going to happen, and they're going to be here just because they care about the town. It is a really, really great bunch of folks. There are other things in here that we're not looking at, and I think that's why we probably need to go back to the
But
drawing board a bit.
let me comment one thing.
May I finish?
Certainly.
And
Sorry.
and that is, you know, there are funding, funding, or better yet, there are activities that members of the department heads do that are really not reflected in the budget. I'm looking, for example, at the town clerk, who does all the audiovisual, the work that it takes to take the audiovisual, put it on YouTube, and that is not budgeted, and yet he's a salaried employee. So we need to be cognizant of the fact that many times department heads or members of this community do things that are not budgeted just because they care. And I think that needs to be rewarded and looked at.
Excellent. Meg?
No, I have to leave just for my timing, but just maybe final comments. Like, I appreciate the structure. Sign me up for any subcommittees. My experience, when you leave the meeting, you get signed up for everything, but be kind. Yeah, that's right.
And that's why we come to every meeting, because we don't want to be signed up for everything.
All right, thank you, Meg.
My last comment to Lou, what you were saying, and Cynthia, your comment. I believe we need to have a mindset that starts from a position of trust, and that, Will, you're not going to get jumped because you're not here, because, oh, he's not here, we can go tack his budget. That's not a good mindset. And how we talk and debate and discuss, tone, tenor, and content matters. And I think, Chris, from a facilitation standpoint, agenda facilitation standpoint for meetings, if we're doing police, we stay to police. If there's a question that comes up about fire, you say, that's going in the parking lot, we'll ask it of Jay, but not at this meeting. And that's how you facilitate discussion to stay focused and allow an appropriate amount of time for budget discussion, and frankly, for a department head to do a budget presentation that is more robust, I think.
Chris?
Yep.
May I make a comment? Again, I don't look at gift horse and/or efforts. No need to pick apart. This is great. And again, sample questions, suggestions. My one, maybe little thing is, I've been on the budget committee for, a while off and on, but I can 1,000% guarantee, and we can look at whatever corner, we have spent more time existentially trying to figure out what we're doing here than actually looking at how much things cost and or when we can pay them or budget for them. And it's something, absolutely, it should be the discussion. It should not be the discussion of every meeting, in my opinion. Also, again, we can't sit here and figure out everybody's role and job and task with assuming we know better and or need to know. Someone has a job, they're given it, a department head, yes, and absolutely we need to trust, and that was kind of my point in asking Will that question. Sorry, Will. But yeah, historically, even when we have group meetings, say the police building committee, we all gathered together, they gave a maybe 2-minute summary. Some of us didn't really, I recognize the frustration too, especially, Nancy, I was too, are we gonna get to ask them anything? It was frustrating, but also after some comments, we then let the audience give 15-minute soliloquies about how not that bad the building looked when they drove by. And yes, that is part of the public commentary and a right, but also, what are we doing then? A committee met with another committee, and we've all met, 20 times with an intent and purpose, and anything we say is then, well, it didn't look that bad when I drove by. That's my point, and I don't mean to be like a shrew about it and or criticizing, especially frickin', attempts or, anything to lay out a structure. It's just, at some point, it's not a problem until it's a problem sometimes, people, and or ask a department head your question respectfully, and if it's none of our business, they'll let us know, and or I've never had that response. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to Elmo this, which means enough already. Let's move on. And let's go to, just because I want to make sure we can finish.
There's a lot.
There's a lot there. And I want to make sure, because we're kind of stuck at the questions. I'm going to assume that everyone is comfortable with the members being, what's the right word? Liaisons of each department. Is there any debate there of having each person on the committee be a liaison to one of the departments?
It could be 2 persons, even though if there may be multiple, and the reason why is because of continuity.
So I think to be respectful of people's time and others, I think if there is one person who's responsible, feel free to go to any other one. We'll post those meetings when they are. So if Charlie has one with fire, we would know that Charlie's going to have that meeting with Jay on this date at this time. Just like we've done in years past, you should go. But I don't want to put the burden on members to be responsible for 2.
Can we just fill in, say finance, CFP, planning? Or do you want to assign?
I was going to ask if people were interested in certain departments. Meg's not here, so we can tell her what to do.
She got water precinct, I already told her. No, I'm just kidding.
I know Charlie's also put himself down for 3, but we could also discuss that. I am happy to, if anyone is interested in any department, I'm happy to write down your name.
I'm interested in police and fire.
Is anyone else, we could do arm wrestling matches if there's a or rock, paper, scissors if there's if someone feels like they want to have that one as well.
Anyone is going to know on our committee for information purposes.
Yes, but Lou is responsible for being the liaison.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes, okay. Any other for fire and dispatch?
Excuse me,
Karen?
are we having just one, or is it
So
two
it's
possible?
one person who is the liaison, the primary liaison.
But if you want to be
you wanna go to
together
the
with me,
meeting?
that's fine.
I'd like to work with Lou on the police.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
good.
again, Lou's going to be the owner. If you want to come, if I want to come, if John wants to come one, come all. But Lou will be the responsible party. Okay, Public Works.
That's a big one.
I will take Public Works.
Yay.
Fire.
I'll take that if.
You
if
already
somebody
have-
else does.
you already have
okay,
one.
we have
Fire and dispatch is one in my notes, so.
This is, it's police and
Police and dispatch.
Would you like fire? Anybody else?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll take anything, like, I need to learn.
I can take anything too.
Okay.
I don't really care.
Kim's on fire now.
Anybody have any things that look interesting? Recreation and town clerk. Let's- Go ahead, Will.
The town clerk has always been, and tax collector has always been part of finance and administration.
thought.
So I think we should tuck those two
I
back
would agree.
together where they should be. Unless you want to talk about
No,
dog licenses for that long, I'm happy
I
to do it.
completely agree with that. So, would you like-
I'd be happy to yield my finance administration, Cynthia, if you want to do that.
would you like rec or finance administration?
Finance is big, that's a big for your person, finance.
Okay,
I do rec, and I can do something else.
Okay,
okay,
It seems like rec has something to it.
it does.
it does.
Cynthia has rec. Library.
Is that, are we, I know obviously we are welcome to have discussions with them, but how does that work in regards to their board of trustees and like our purview to their information? What?
That's a great question. They are technically a separate entity.
Yeah.
You need to go through Richard, the director, and make sure that everything is social.
Yeah.
We've- yeah,
So
I
it's an independent nonprofit to which the town appropriates money for some portion of the majority of its costs. I'm sure there is a finance committee, and I would suggest going through the finance committee to get access to then have the kind of inquiry that we're suggesting is a standardized format for all
You want
departments.
library? Okay.
I mean, I just want to make sure, I wasn't like, and at no point do I think somebody over there's going to be like, no, don't talk to her.
They've always,
No, they'd be very open. No, they'd be very open.
they've always been open. John, what would you like?
Whatever you want, I'll take whatever you want me to have, I don't care.
School or water?
Sure.
Which one? Would you like to learn more about? Probably water. School's going to be
Yeah, I'll do water.
John. Okay. John's going to take water.
Can I ask Richard a question? You served on the school board and budget committee, but extensively for quite a period of time.
I've never been a member of the school board. I've been on the municipal budget committee for the school district for 17 years now. And I am still on the municipal budget committee for the school district.
So do you see value in taking time of a committee member from this committee to participate in that? And I'm not even sure what I mean when I say participate in that, because I don't have an appreciation for how that works and the time and the extent of deliberation, et cetera.
I mean, I would suggest that that's one area where, as opposed to the library, where it's a more direct connection to the town,
Yep.
to start, you might want to, I think you're right, Charlie, to be thoughtful about whether or not it's worth having someone from here. I mean, certainly, I'm always going to be happy to answer any questions anybody has about the school budget.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it's a great use of folks here's time to be trying to.
I was particularly thinking of it in that way, in addition to what I understand has been sort of put out there as a significant capital need, and how the dialogue will go on those decisions, and significant bonding, debt bonding that's going to be required, and at least at this committee, having sufficient information to understand that the town's budget for the school is 50% of the budget, a little north of 50% of the entire Kearsarge budget. And I would assume the bonding debt requirement would be similar in appropriation of portion to the town. What's that look like? Because we've got a CIP process that doesn't factor any of that into its thinking. It's specific only to town needs.
Right, right.
So I was,
You know, I mean, certainly, you know, to what, no, that's okay. What Karen was referring to earlier was a comment that I made at a recent school board meeting when I just was quoting the late Senator Paul Tsongas from Massachusetts when I said the numbers are relentless. And it's just, you know, the challenge that we're all facing here is, you know, for the taxpayer, the fact that the town and the school district are two completely separate entities doesn't really matter much to them. You know, it's how much money are they going to be paying at the, you know, each quarter in their tax bill. And so, yes, I mean, certainly the school district is looking at some breathtaking, you know, potential costs going forward. And we're just talking about right now the 4 elementary schools. The challenges with the high school continue. You, I'm sure all recollect that we did not pass the STEAM wing a few years ago. And the high school has not miraculously healed itself, and so those problems continue. So, you know, as I said, the numbers are relentless.
And if I can make a I have, and I don't even know, like, there was a huge discussion, but I sat on also the municipal budget committee and this board as late as since my term ended last year. And there's nothing that we see or discuss, to my knowledge, that's not shared online, like dollar amounts that I'm aware of, and or it's all there, and it is worthy of a liaison, but to the liaison from New London who we also elected, it might be a bit, you know, well, not even daunting, but like I was called a couple of times to like recall figures and a number on demand, and darned if I just couldn't do it. It was a lot of pressure, and then I got a pen thrown at me, but you know, that's another story. Yeah, it's just a whole nother wormhole within a wormhole, in my opinion.
so can we rely on you for that information that,
At
you
your
know?
own peril, sure.
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously, we can't go to the school board or municipal budget committee and ask these types of questions. So I think if there was someone who could be a liaison to the school and brings us
Yeah.
the news of the day.
I think that's all I'm suggesting by even having it in the list.
Yeah.
It's sort of the, what's top of mind and what potential fiscal next 5 years are we looking at, so that when we look at our CIP, we can factor some sensible projection of capital need for the school district into that.
Just a suggestion, we could have a liaison, we could ask, I think it's Winfred.
Yeah, we've done that before.
Yeah, talk to us, or the other liaison, whom I'm not sure, but, yeah.
So I have,
They're all open meetings, and they're not gonna schedule a special
I-
one for us. I'm still looking for Karen, John, and
yeah, so here's what we got. We got Lou for police, Chris for public works. I put fire for fire. Why did I do that? Kim for fire. Kim, I called you fire. Lindsay library, wow, this really goes together. Rec, Cynthia. I have John for finance and admin, town clerk, tax collection, because you're on planning and CIP.
CIP is pretty easy. I think John was.
I was gonna do water, but then, at the last minute deadline, trade deadline, we made a switch.
Karen
So,
Karen's water.
Karen wanted water.
Can I just comment on water for, quick second? That is a separate entity from the town, so we don't have any real purview there. We know what you guys know, so I would just be mindful of that answering all those questions probably is not going to be something that they want to do.
I'm not proposing for the school or for the water precinct that we're giving them a set of questions
Yep.
similar to the set we would give to department heads of the town.
Okay,
It's to be informed about what they're
Perfect.
facing. What, for example, they've got X number of dollars in reserve. How are those monies being thought about?
Yep.
How might it influence
Great.
funding for water-related issues that the town may be facing? And so we have a sense of appropriation or a potential use of funds,
perfect.
source of funds, that sort of.
Great, okay.
And as the water issue that looms is being debated and discussed with pending decisions
Yeah.
as well, the committee has the information. to be
Perfect.
able to-
Thanks for that
Is
clarity.
that okay with you, Karen?
Oh, yes, I'm very well aware they are a separate legal entity from the town.
Yeah, they go,
Yeah,
Karen goes to
absolutely.
just about every water precinct meeting, so that'd be.
Sounds thrilling.
No, it actually is very thrilling, very educational.
You feel free, I will make sure, the only person we have missing is Meg. I will,
So does that mean she gets planning?
I will figure that out. Charlie's got planning.
Oh, Charlie's got
I
planning.
got planning.
Well, you've got planning and CIP? Those go together now?
Yeah, they're related, so
Okay, fair enough.
They are.
I'm just,
I
you
think
know,
it's,
Yes.
I'm just making sure I got my notes right.
Okay.
That's all.
you got to.
Why don't we move on to the recommendations? You want to move on to other recommendations?
I can. The recommendation D is to the select board to help by establishing a set of goals and assumptions for department heads and the town administrator to factor into budgets. Past history, Kim Hallquist stated, I never wanted to put any kind of parameters to department heads because I didn't want to limit them in asking for something that they need. And that was the direction for budget preparation. I'm suggesting that the select board might consider putting some assumptions out and expectations out to help focus the mindset versus just react to a budget that gets submitted. And that could take any different kind of form. And the context for this is what I listed as factors that we know and factors we don't know, that all will have some budgetary impact at some point in time, some more quickly, some less so. So that when the select board is thinking about the operating budget for this year, next year, and beyond, that there's some reasonable assumptions that are given versus just ask for what you need. That's the recommendation, but if in lieu of the select board doing it, we could, as a committee, put that out there if we chose to do that.
Charlie, I would say this, that, that's certainly a conversation I'm going to be having with the other folks on the select board. I personally think that that is a reasonable thing to do. Certainly, I will say this is kind of fascinating for me, because in 17 years now on the MBC for the school district, we face a lot of the same sorts of challenges that you folks are facing here. And now I'm kind of like sort of sitting where the school board sits at the town level. And it's kind of fascinating for me to see the dilemma of, where does the MBC's purview extend to? How far? And it's something that after 17 years on the MBC for the school district, I still wrestle with to this day.
Yeah.
To this day. And it's always an interesting conversation kind of with my fellow members of the MBC as to when are we overstepping? When are we, in two different areas, both where we're getting into the purview of the school board and also when we are potentially really micromanaging the school district. And I do take issue sometimes when I feel like we're kind of, I say to folks, we hire administrators to run the school district. It's not our job. But it's a challenge. I mean, I really do sympathize with what you folks are doing here tonight, because it is a tough call, and people can reasonably disagree as to where to draw the line.
In addition to this section, I don't actually know whether I would put this under knowns or unknowns, but we're getting at it with the Bucher Building, Kearsarge School capital needs. We're on there. You got new Public Works, new building, but I feel like we have, we're letting the elephant get larger when we don't talk about all of our buildings and sort of a capital plan for them. I realize that this is in the CIP and the planning discussion to come, but to me, the biggest thing I would like for us to work on this year is, and I think this is something that has happened to the school. As a matter of fact, I know it has, and so we have ignored buildings in our school district at our peril. And I see us doing this in our town, and we must become disciplined and start working on the buildings every year so that we don't kill ourselves every time we need to put a damn roof on. And we really, really have to figure out how to space this out. And I would like to add that somewhere in here, whether we want to call that knowns, whether we want to call it unknowns, some way.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie.
I think, I agree 100%. I think my understanding, Ashley and Lynn, is that Sam is working on with a new piece of software that is cataloging all of our buildings and their current condition and preventative maintenance requirements to be able to project those out over a period of time, and that software was purchased intentionally for that kind of capability that would meet what John's talking about.
Okay. I don't have any recollection of that, but I'm happy to ask Sam tomorrow and let you know.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm going to go in, and again, since I've been here, Charles, you mentioned, of course, goals and assumptions. If we had a strategic plan, we would have those goals and assumptions, and every single funding line in this budget should obey a goal and an assumption and a metric that is established in such plan. We've never had it. And we can do, and now mind you, I agree with you, we can have goals and assumptions, but those are going to be all over the place. There's nothing that joins them all together. If you look at any organization, as a matter of fact, my agency in the federal government had it. When I was in the Pentagon, we had it. As a head of a board, of a condominium board in DC, we had a strategic plan. We don't have one here. And of course, set of goals and assumption, yes, but my fear is that going to be disparate, and there's nothing going to be joining them to form a cohesive plan that drives the budget, because those goals have to drive the budget.
They do. I agree with you, Lou, and we've talked strategic planning quite a bit. I think what this is suggesting is that we get to a strategic financial plan this year with knowns that we have and some of the maybe possibly unknowns to be able to forecast out what the appropriation requirements are going to be specifically in the areas, those items that are driving the budget, in particular departments, and what is going to drive the bonded debt obligation to support that plan of capital expenditure over the next 10-year period of time. And I think that's an achievable thing by this committee today and now going forward, getting to a strategic plan for the town that incorporates master planning as well as these financial considerations is something that's more comprehensive but required at some point.
So I think that's something for the select board to consider, and that's one of those items that you may come back to us with some suggestions. I would say, and Charlie, tell me if I'm wrong, I know I read a sentence when I look at this again that says, at a minimum, detailed assumptions of individual line items should be included. I don't think we mean every single line item in all the department budgets.
No, I think you need the major
Yeah.
line items addressed.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think, I learned early on,
not-
stop picking at office supplies because they're gonna be an expense and it's not minimal to the whole. But I think certainly to the majority of line items that are the big ones.
Yeah,
yes.
the big ones, that's fine.
Yeah.
Ashley?
Just a note on the strategic plan, we have asked someone to start working on a strategic plan for the town. It is a bit different. Municipalities are not like corporate America. What she has found is that there are very few towns that have been able to successfully do a strategic plan or any sort of outlook, but she is continuing that process and will come back to us.
Okay.
Excuse me, can I ask? Who, is this someone within the town or
It
someone
is.
outside?
Yep, it's someone from within the town. Yeah. Lindsay, did you have a question?
No, it's more of just it's getting existential again.
Oh, okay.
All right, so the next recommendation is to request the Capital Improvement Process Committee to provide a forecast of capital expenditure estimates with the detailed scope and expense assumptions, including compounded inflation rates, project timing and timelines, and prioritization.
And to speed that one a little forward, I spoke with Adam Ricker prior to this meeting because we're talking about when's the Capital Improvement Process Committee going to get started. And there's been a significant amount of work that's being done behind the scenes at a great level of detail that will inform that work. And I told him what we've recommended, or what I've recommended, and he was in full support of that. And prioritization has been a big part of that. Two things. Estimates of capital expenditures that are detailed sufficiently to support a number with a projection of need in terms of time, when during the next 5 or 10 years is it needed, and prioritize it. You know, what if we defer, can we defer or not? And he thinks that's reasonable to do and reasonable to ask.
Question, Charlie, as written, as proposed, do you feel that this sufficiently covers the sort of general buildings progress that I was speaking of in the previous recommendation?
Yes, I think. And the I think is it's sort of information-based, and that's why, going back to conversations last year with Sam about what he was doing with this software, which would be able to be a much more reliable, predictive indicator of renovation need, replacement need, timing, cost estimates, et cetera, would
Yeah, there's so many
provide.
ways to do, this one I've actually been thinking about significantly, and there's a number of ways that I think we could attack it, but I would love to see, but I need more information before we
Yeah.
can even decide how to attack it.
Yeah.
And I know that folks have been asking for the report on the building and facilities that has been worked on. The select board has committed to releasing that by the end of this month, I believe,
Oh, cool.
to the public. So they're still just working with Frank on the line items.
Yeah.
Are there any, Charlie, after E, are there any, I feel like F is, we've kind of been talking about it, we're just looking for a 5 to 10 year budget forecast with tax rate estimates for each year. We can do that with Questica, if I'm not making any.
Questica won't give you your tax rate estimates, but Steve and I have been working, and mostly me, because Steve likes to go on vacation. Steve and I have been working on a 10-year financial forecast that will include that. We're waiting for, my plan was to roll it out just before the budget jamboree, because we want to put in anything from CIP. We want to, I mean, there's assumptions that have to be made.
Sure.
So we wanted to make sure that we had as much information as possible. So the spreadsheet is built It goes out 10 years. I still have to put the final actuals from 2025 in there. And then again, any of the capital things that we want to include and work it from there. But it's there.
Would that also include departments saying by the year 2030, I will need another 2 people? Does it include headcounts and things?
It does not include personnel, but the personnel part is broken out. So if we add to personnel, it will automatically update some stuff for us. But then on the other side of it, Questica can take the budget that we put into it, and you can make assumptions on it and say, what happens if we increase by 2% per year over the next 10 years? What happens if we increase just personnel by 2%? So those assumptions can be made within Questica. And the reason I liked Questica was because you guys could go in and play all those assumptions out, but I can also create a report that will just land on your dashboard, click on it, and then that'll build for whatever assumption we decided we wanted to do. So you can do both things.
Can I think, I don't want to give you work, and of course, we'd have to ask the town administrator. But last year, when you gave us this sort of like briefing, on Questica and what it could do and stuff like that, it would be immeasurably worthy for our new members to to familiarize themselves with what the program, it's like magic.
So for the new members, we have a budgeting software called Questica, and when you're working in it, you're questing. But I will train you guys. Will get your own login. I will do a training session. Karen had asked if she can come along, and because after a year, you're like, oh, what else do I want to know? So I'll get some training done for you. I'll show you how to get to their help desk, which has a ton of training. But it basically gives you a login. You get to look at the budget. You get to look at the past 5 years' budget. You can do some report forecasting. So I will get those training sessions up and running.
I want in, can I ask
Yeah.
a question?
Yeah.
So just so I'm understanding, it allows a module which you can change variables like, okay, say this goes up to whatever, but like it should not be perceived or dependent upon for predicting a COVID whatever, or whatever's happened to the rates or whatever. And that's what I just want to make sure the expectations are managed before so much effort is being based off something that is highly unpredictable.
Right. The only
Best
thing
practices is
right,
what we
because it's
gotta
only
do.
going to react to your assumptions that you put in, and the assumptions you have are what we have now. Nobody would have guessed in 2019 that we should make an assumption for a worldwide pandemic. Like
yeah.
there's just things you can't, but you can make some assumptions. Predicting inflation, I don't know. That's been a tough one lately. But you want to try and get your best guess. And what I've set up with the other spreadsheet, not Questica, with the other spreadsheet, we can change those assumptions. We can change it for 5% every year for 10 years, or we can put in individually, like, all right, it'll go 5% this year, 10% next year, so we can play with those numbers. Questica, again, you can create what they call alternate budgets.
Gotcha.
So you'll go in and you'll look at the budget and you'll say, I want to create an alternate one called no personnel increase.
Right.
And then you can do everything else goes up, but not the personnel piece. You
Yeah.
can do it the opposite. Personnel goes up, but none of the others. And you can create as many of those as you want.
You
So-
create the application, it's not magic and doesn't predict it.
Correct.
Good.
Correct.
Okay.
It's limited by what our knowledge
Well,
base is right now.
Therein is kind of, yeah.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's move to G, just for time's sake. We got about 14 minutes.
Yep.
Um,
I think that's pretty straightforward. In developing a list, a question set, and having it available to department heads by September 1st, that would not be necessarily redundant to what the individual liaisons done with the format. It would be additional questions over and above that the department.
Formulated.
No, we have to do that work also. I've put just a start of recommending some questions relative to certain department areas that needs to be fleshed out, which follows this particular recommendation. There's some thought on recreation, town administrator, finance, library, public works, and I think the intention being we have our 3 meetings that are coming in August and September and have the liaisons bring their report forward, we discuss it, we inquire more, and maybe there's questions that then from that are generated that we then send to the department head by that time frame, so they have adequate time to prepare for the October budget sessions we'll have. So that question set, I think, Chris, the first question set, which is what's the format standardized for each department, needs to be fleshed out and refined as the next step with input from everybody. And then the second is, what are the department-specific questions that might be added to this list that members have now, but also could then be populated after we do these next 3 meetings, on the liaison department review report.
And this, I know this says September 1st, but perhaps it should be later, just after you have your initial discussion, your liaison discussion, you might have more questions, and those could go through September 17th, so
Yeah,
maybe after that, I can change the time on that.
yeah. I was just looking to give adequate time to a department head
Yeah,
versus jumping them with a bunch of new questions.
okay. Any questions on that? Again, nothing, this is what you see, doesn't mean this is what it is, it's just
A starting
a
point.
starting point at suggestions. Okay. And then last but not least, recommendation H is just to encourage members to attend the Select Board Budget Review meeting. So that is where all department heads present their plans. And there are questions asked throughout the day. So each department head comes up, gives their presentation. The Select Board, as well as the community members, ask questions that the department heads answer. I think to Charlie's point, it might take out some redundancy from questions that are then asked at department heads here. Not all, and sometimes questions need to come up again. That is also recorded, so if you are unable, because it's on a Friday and you gotta work, at least go back and watch it. So that's just more of an encouragement, right? Anything else in addition to that?
No, that's exactly, and if somebody can't.
I attended that last year as a new member. I did find that was incredibly
Very helpful.
valuable.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
very
really
helpful.
valuable.
Excuse me, Chris.
Yes.
Do you folks have any joint meetings with the Select Board and the Municipal Budget Committee?
We have sometimes, usually at the end when we reconcile.
Okay.
But there's been other opportunities when there's discussion around some things that we've had joint meetings.
Okay. The reason why I ask is because originally, when I joined the MBC for the school district, we had separate meetings for the school board and for the MBC from all of our principals and our information systems, et cetera. And then we eventually combined those so
Yeah.
that it was less of a,
So we did try to do that, and Lynn, you can keep me honest, we did try and do that in the past, where it was thought that there would be some time saving by having the department head present to the select board members and the budget committee members at the same time, so they don't have to come back and redo it. This was before we had the one time Friday Friday all day thing. So, but we decided, and I can't remember off the top of my head the reason, to go back to having the department heads come in and present their budgets without the selectmen. I think it was because they did their plan to the select board and to all the members of the public that one time. Does that make sense?
it does. I was just curious,
Yeah.
Sort of, because in the school district, we've gone back and forth. Do we want to have joint meetings or not?
Yeah.
We had joint meetings for a time, then we stopped having joint meetings, and now we've gone back to joint meetings.
Sorry. Yeah, going into that, last year, It was very helpful just from an informational standpoint, but by the time we got around to discussing it here, I actually did want to hear it again. It did help me process it by hearing it that second time, but I don't know if that's added value or not.
Or also
It's the way I
something's-
felt.
Something's changed as well.
Yeah, that's that too.
Yep.
Question in the audience.
Audience question. Yes, yes, ma'am.
I want to get a few thoughts in before the clock runs out.
You got it.
Thanks. I went to a
Oh,
meeting.
can you just state your name for the
Oh,
record?
sorry.
No
My
worries.
name is Mag Francis, and I went to your all's meeting in April, and I have to admit I walked away alarmed and perhaps a little bit frustrated. And part of that had to do with I didn't think that all of you had a consistent view relative to what your job was. So that set me on a little journey, and I followed up with some of you all individually at various other meetings to ask you, was there anything written down that defined the job? And the answer was no, and everybody kept saying, well, go look at the statute. So I went to look at the statute, and the statute says, okay, that you all have the authority vested in this committee akin to a legislative appropriations committee. And if you all know what happened in New Hampshire this year with the budget process, Kelly Ayotte submitted a budget, and then the House went with a big red pen and said, we can't afford this, we don't have the revenue, and then the Senate did that. And it took a long time and a lot of discussion, and they came to a consensus as to what that budget needed to be to match what we could afford. And with that sort of authority also comes accountability. So I want to commend this group because I think you guys have come very, very, very far in a short period of time. So Charlie and Karen started some discussion at the April meeting with respect to changes and improvements. What Charlie and Chris have done, okay, I think is absolutely fabulous. In terms of why so much time gets spent talking about process as opposed to what's driving costs, it's sort of a basic organizational theory. If you don't have a consistent understanding of what the job is and what the process is, you will do that. You will do that over and over and over again. You will spend 100 times more hours than if you just sat down and did what I think you guys are doing now, because it really does feel like good stuff, if you will. Is it perfect? No, but you will evolve that over time. You're going to continue to learn what works, what doesn't work. I do want to do a specific example of, like, how does this save department head time? I'll just give you my personal example, okay? It's just who I am. I was hanging out in Florida, enjoying my winter. I listened to some select board meetings, and I got worried. I got worried about the finances of our town, and as soon as I returned, I did some deep diving while I could, right down there. I started getting involved. One of the things that I found out pretty quickly was we are making a fairly huge, and I really mean huge, new money investment in our fire department, okay, over the next 10 years. It's staff, right? It's equipment. It's not just the new ladder truck, which is going to cost a lot of money. It's the building to put the new ladder truck in. And I followed up individually with some of the folks on this committee. And even though all those pieces of information were available, it wasn't coming together in terms of a number. Okay, so when I threw the number, and Jay and I have talked, remember, I'm going to get back to why this is going to save the department's time. It's a big number, okay, and yet key members of this committee didn't know what that number was and what was driving it, and that concerned me. I spent time with Jay because I'm a taxpayer. I wanted to know what's driving that mega $1 million investment. He spent 3 hours with me. I understand it, okay, but if every department head had to spend time individually with taxpayers answering their questions, okay, it would not work. It just wouldn't work. And yet, as a taxpayer, I believe, okay, I have the right to know that information. As a result of this meeting, I now trust this group, okay, to do that work and that thinking and that data gathering and that analysis for me. okay? I didn't feel that way in April. I thought, holy cow, I'm gonna have to sit there, okay, with each one, with my little set of questions, okay, so that I could understand why we have consistent double-digit budget inflation in this town that's not gonna end in the near future, and yet we still have buildings, okay, where we're not funding the roof. Yes, well, I'm not gonna go down that squirrel hole. So congratulations, I think it's a really, really, really good beginning. I do think if it's done well, okay, I will feel comfortable that somebody is representing me at an intellectual level to understand what's driving our budget inflation and capital investments in this town. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Couple minutes left.
Lynn?
Sorry, yes.
I just wanted to add, and it's nothing, on topic, it's off topic, but the auditors are coming in on the 30th of July, so my time is going to be very bogged down in finishing and closing the year and then running the 8 hours worth of reports that they're looking for. So I just wanted to let you guys know that, so.
Yeah, I don't, these are suggestions.
Oh, I know. I just know that you guys want some information prior to the next meeting that's going to come from me, I think. And I'm just letting you know that just the next 2 weeks are just going to be a dead run for me. And then after that can definitely address some of those.
Okay, so we'll walk through that or talk
Okay,
through that.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. There is a recommendation for meeting schedules. I would say that we could probably finalize this. I can send out on an email. Again, people have jobs, people travel. Sometimes you're not going to be able to be here. Hopefully, most of the time you can, and that's okay. I guess the only time we'd really love for you to be here is that final when we vote on the budget. But other than that, we'll use this as a suggestion. I will put this on email just so everybody has a chance to go look at their calendars to see when the right time is.
I would also look at the schedule of meetings on the town website, because I'm fairly certain that some of these meetings are on the same time as a select board meeting.
Okay.
I can't remember which ones, but I'm almost certain that there were some
Great.
overlap there.
Okay.
Is that something you can do for us? In terms of these dates we just picked, I picked them just based on Wednesdays and spreading it out over the months, but if they conflict, is that something you can tell us?
Have the
That
selectmen
would be
move
in-
their meetings to Wednesdays?
They have for the summer months,
Oh, they have.
yes.
Thanks for consulting. It's fine. We'll find other dates that work.
Perfect, Charlie, I can go through. It'll take me a few days, but I'm happy to go
Yeah,
through.
I mean, I don't want to add work, but.
No, it's all good.
in
I'm
terms
happy to.
of You have a
Sure.
better appreciation for what the other demands are.
Absolutely.
So we'll find dates, and also, I know we just put in order of meetings for the departments, but that can change as well. Actually, go back a couple of years to see what we've done for others, because it's always nice if you presented first one year, maybe present last the next year. The last recommendation, which I thought was a really good one from Charlie, was adoption of a consent agenda, so to streamline our meetings to allow more time for discussion of the budget. So that would mean that we would get information to members for their review in advance of the meeting, including town report, meeting minutes, select board report, and any other items provided prior to. That way we could vote on the meeting minutes very quickly, like we've done in the past. Maybe not to spend much time on the selectmen report, et cetera, have more time for budget. Because sometimes those selectmen report discussions can go 30 minutes before we even get into budget discussion. So any thoughts from selectmen on that? Would that be a problem? Yeah. Okay. So, next steps. I think it would be helpful if, through Ashley, all the town department heads have this. You have this, obviously. The selectmen have this. Be helpful for you to look at this, go through it, and say what could be helpful, what is not helpful, why is it not helpful, so we could come back as a group and maybe have a joint discussion as a select board and a budget committee to finalize this, because I think it would be ideal to have a finalized list of, or a process in place that we all agree to, or somewhat mostly agree to, and then I would ask the budget committee members to go through the list of questions, and maybe even the department heads to wordsmith and/or reduce, take out, add, or provide their thoughts on them. That way, we can decide on what is that framework that we're going to use that is consistent. Lindsay?
I have a quick question. So when you say like make suggestions.
Microphone.
When you say suggestions to the questions, are we dictating what people are going to be asking as a group, or just are these guidelines that we
Yes.
should use as a frame of
Yes.
reference?
No, if there
Yeah.
is, whatever that set is, we say to the liaison, you go to the end to the department head, here's the set of questions that we want to frame the discussion around,
Okay.
and we are consistent in that.
Gotcha.
And that the report, the liaison with the department head generate back that the committee receives is consistent.
Yeah,
That makes
it
sense.
doesn't preclude you from asking other questions and things like
Yeah,
that, but
no more
it's just
explanation needed. I just
yeah.
wanted to make sure.
so that way what Jay get asks is what Emily get asks, is what
Yeah.
Putnam get asks. Okay.
Chris, how would you like us to communicate our revisions or additions?
Yeah,
or
I
to
can
everybody,
send-
to you and
I could
Charlie?
send out a separate email with just the list of questions. Does everybody, see, this is a tough one. Does everybody here use Word? Yes?
I think this is standard.
Word? Do you use Word? I'm looking at, do you use Word?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can create a shared document.
Use other things too.
Well, and I'm just asking because if one person doesn't have it, I can't create a shared document that everybody can make comments on. So I can create a Word document, share that with everyone, so that everybody can go in and make comments, add questions, et cetera. It tracks everybody's changes.
What if there's a Google Drive that she has administrated, and we use a Google
Google. Ugh.
which has the same, but also has, it's not going to be a Word document, that, we're,
So it's a Google Doc, just not a Word doc.
Google Doc, yeah.
Right, so it's the same thing, just a Google Doc.
I'm sorry, yeah. Just say everybody can get on it,
It's fine.
I know nothing about it, but I'll find out.
So, Chris, this is in a Word document right now.
Yeah.
I think you can cut and paste, distribute it, and use that as the input.
Yeah, I think
Vehicle.
and again, everybody's got different technology acumen. So now with Word, like Microsoft, you can send out a document,
Yes.
and everybody can share it and be working on the same document at the same time, tracking changes,
right.
deleting those types of things, adding comments. If you have that as a town administrator for Google, happy to use that one.
I'll take a look.
Okay,
I don't know, but I'll
let's take a look and find out which is the best solution.
I do just want to make a comment that I just want to be mindful that you guys can't get into a back and forth via email, because that's then a meeting.
Correct.
So just to be mindful
So
of
if
that.
you have questions or comments, it
To
needs
send
to be
'em.
sent to the entire budget committee group. Right?
No.
On email?
No. To the entire budget committee?
Yeah.
No. Well, I mean, it could, you guys all can't respond because we're then in a private meeting.
Got it.
So that's why, like, for police facilities, I BCC'd all members all the time to prohibit the back and forth between committee members, because then that's a meeting.
So specifically, we get the question sets out that we have here as just drafts. We ask for input with a deadline. We take that. You and I can do that if you want to
Yeah.
volunteer us. I certainly would be happy to do it. And take the collection of recommendations to a final document to then distribute for everybody to go, yep.
Yep. So if someone does have a question, they can reach out to an individual.
Absolutely.
So Cynthia, if you have a
Yes.
question about something, it could be me, it could be Ash, sorry, it could be Karen, it could be,
It is the suggestion of using Word or Google Doc.
So,
Is that then creating a conversation?
no.
No, because you're each individually going into it and making your own recommendations on it.
But
It's
not
when you get into
communicating
a
with each-
conversation back and forth.
And that's helpful for you guys to aggregate the comments that way.
Yeah.
So just for clarification, this is for comments on the entire proposal, not just for questions?
Just the question.
Just for questions regarding any comments that people have had a chance to reflect on that
I
are
think we're gonna have the select board look at it, we're gonna have the department heads look at it, and we can come back and have a meeting to discuss collective comments
from not only select board and department heads, but
from you as well.
committee members. Great,
Correct.
thank you.
Yep. Okay.
I propose that we adjourn.
Second that motion?
Can I, before we do that, can I just bring a couple of administrative things?
Sure.
One, we have some open minutes from the previous year, still in 2025 that we have not approved.
Maybe Kim took them with her.
So, no, it's
We'll
a
bring 'em-
formality, but we would need to.
We'll bring them to the next meeting.
Yeah, so just for the next agenda, and also, I noticed in previous years, as we transition into the new year, that we addressed selecting a chair / vice chair, so just kind of administrative things.
Yeah, Charlie and I talked
Wanted to
about
pass
that,
on.
said, should we bring it up at this meeting? I was gonna do it because we had everybody, but I'd rather, maybe we can do that at the next meeting when we have all the
Oh,
committee
sure,
members
yeah,
together.
just wanted to, I know things are moving quickly, and
Yep.
it's exciting year, and as we know, the weeks fly by, so.
And Karen, just so you know, I did approve a April 2nd or April 4th meeting minutes this morning. So those should be up, if not today, then
Oh,
tomorrow.
great, so we'll have three to vote on then. Great, thank you.
Sure.
We will miss our editor, John Wilson, so.
Yes, we will.
Oh, poor guy.
I know. Kim, thank you for taking notes, or at least you were moving your pen, so appreciate it. We did second, all those in favor of ending the meeting?
Aye.
Aye. All right, meeting adjourned.
Again,
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Charlie.
nay.